Did you tell Bubba get ready for the next one before or after you told him about the sharks?
It was after, but I don't think there was
Nice.
any real
That's a good
mood
crew.
change. I think he was just like, I got enough adrenaline. I'm good to go.
Welcome to the Calm in the Chaos podcast, where we discuss untold heroic experiences and dive into the mindset of the Navy's elite rescue swimmers. Hosted by former U.S. Navy Aviation Rescue Swimmer, Mount Everest solo summiteer, and best-selling author Brian Dickinson.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Dickinson. If you're enjoying these stories, please take a second to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. It helps more people find these conversations, and it keeps the mission alive. And if you want early access to new episodes and to support what we're building, consider becoming a Spotify paid subscriber. Your support means everything. Now let's jump in so others may live. All right, so super excited to have my first threesome on the Calm in the Chaos podcast. You got Dan McNamara, 5 years as aviation rescue swimmer in the Navy. Bubba Norris, 9 years, same thing. And super excited, man. This is crazy. So first, just thanks for joining, guys. This is so cool.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah. I do
Yep.
have to correct you though, Dickie. I was the dry guy.
Oh, you were?
I was the dry guy. Yeah. So there's a lot of story behind that. But yeah,
I love this. Yeah.
dry guy,
Here we
yeah.
go. We can have fun with that. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Okay, perfect. And what's crazy is Dan and I were talking just before we started recording, and we had no idea, but we are literally neighbors, like across the parkway where we live. So I can't wait to go hang out. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
And then Bubba and I, we go way back 30 some years. I, we might have been in aircrew school as well together, but definitely SAR school.
So if you remember your aircrew class number, mine was 9330.
Was it McFadden?
Oh, now you're getting
You have to look at text, man.
It took me forever just to find that number.
Oh, that's impressive. No, you're better with numbers. No, but that's crazy. Yeah, because we were in SAR school together back in 93, and then we both went out, well, we went through all the different schools together after that. And then I think I went to SEER, and you might have taken, what do you call it back then when you take leave? I'm thinking PTO. You took vacation, holiday.
Yeah.
So you took leave, I think, and then I kind of jumped right into like Sears school, and I went to HS10 and all that, and kind of jumped ahead. Then I went to HS2, you went to HS8, and that's a lot of what we'll be talking about today. But yeah, it's so cool. Just I love this podcast because we just get to reunite. Otherwise, who knows? You never know what God's going to do in our world. So this is amazing.
Yeah, I did get to see what Dan went. Was it the September 26th, 2023, right? That's when we all had to get together. Yeah, for Lee Dangler's 25th memorial. We all went out there and visited his family, and his little memorial that the VFW has set up for him. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So we all got together then.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like literally like we didn't even skip a beat. Like it was like we literally just walked off the ship and we're on Liberty Call. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Isn't that crazy? Because there's so much life that happens in between, but there's just that brotherhood and that camaraderie that you can't match that on the outside world.
No.
Nope, you can't.
That's awesome. So I don't know, let's talk about just who we are, people, for those that don't know you guys. Dan, like where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Iowa, small family, small town, right outside Des Moines. My father was in the Navy, so he was in the Navy out in Alameda, and then all his family was in Iowa. So once I was born, I was like 1 year old. He moved back to Iowa, so it's pretty much where I grew up, and then was in the Navy in '91. So
Okay, cool. Bubba, you from Georgia?
I am. Grew up in Jefferson, Georgia, which is right outside Athens. Not a whole lot going on, small town. Didn't have anything to do, wasn't going anywhere except I knew I was getting in trouble and having too much fun. And like you said, I think God intervened and said, Bubba, it's time for you to leave. And so I actually had to sneak out of the house because my mom wouldn't let me join, and went and signed up, broke her heart. And
Mhm.
but, we all realize now, looking back now, it was the best thing. So
Yeah.
don't look back at all.
Yeah. So how was it in Georgia like growing up? I remember when I first met you, you were definitely a good Southern Georgia boy. That's what's so cool about the military is you get folks from everywhere, so you get to experience that where a lot of people that never leave their towns, like that's it. Were you out
Yeah.
shooting and hunting and doing like
Well, yeah, I don't know if you can see the Zoom stuff behind my head, but there's
yeah.
elk on the wall, and on the other side there's a deer. And so we built this little house in Oklahoma, and then my wife said I didn't realize we were building a hunting lodge. I just I got to do something with them. Yeah, yeah. No, hunting, fishing, riding, quads and dirt bikes, outdoors all the time. Um, and like I said, there was a lot of getting in trouble because there was nothing else to do. Like my senior class was 52 people, so
Yeah, mine was
we had
69. Yeah.
a
Same.
red light. And so, you know, for a young man like myself, I had just didn't want to go to college. It wasn't in the pictures of the cards for me. So yeah, I joined up.
Dan, so you were a dry crewman. How did that work? When you went in, was that something that you went directly into, like straight to air crew, or what was your Navy path?
So, like a lot of guys back then, like I actually knew about the whole undesignated thing. I'm like, there's no way that I'm gonna get railroaded into that. So when I met with my recruiter, I said, I don't care what I do in the air. Like I just want to fly. I want to be guaranteed that I'm gonna fly. So he's like, all right, if you get through boot camp, get through air crew, as long as you pass air crew, then you can you can pick uh your designation.
I think
Like,
pisser
God,
designation actually works too.
that too, but
Can make it or break it.
yeah, yeah. So I went. So I literally had like no idea what aircraft I was going to fly and what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to fly. So I go through boot camp. I go through air crew. I actually got rolled back in aircrew because I didn't pass the tread, the 5 minute tread in gear.
Hmm.
So I had to go through like an extra week of training to be able to
Wow.
pass that. Pass aircrew, and then I remember they bring me in this room and they had this card with all these jobs, and I'm going through all these jobs, and it's like AE, AT, AD, and it's like fix this, fix this, fix this, fix this, and all the way down at the bottom was AW, and it's like operate this. I'm like, well, I don't want to fix the black box. It's like I want to play with the black box. So I picked AW.
I love
Then
your thought
they
process here.
yeah, yeah. So then they shipped me to to AW school, A school, and I just like in one of your previous podcasts with Mikey Larson, like you had to score high because then you could kind of pick your orders from the board. Well, I happened to be third in class, and the first two sets of orders were S3. And then the next two sets of order, all it said was HS10. And then like the rest were all Asmod, on the ship. And I'm like, well, I'm like, I don't want to be on the ship. I want to fly. So I picked HS10. But I hadn't been through. I wasn't SAR, wasn't a SAR swimmer, nothing like that. So I show up to HS10 as a E3 with nothing, and they're like, what are you doing here?
Like you lost
Yeah, they're like, how did you get orders to a training helicopter squadron as a non-SAR swimmer? And I'm
in
like,
90, what, 91,
this was
92?
92, 93.
Yeah. Yeah, that was unusual at that point.
Yeah, and this was like, I guess this was when they were just transitioning from the H3s to the 60s.
Hmm.
So I show up there, and of course they're like, what are we gonna do with this guy? And so initially they just stuck me down. Remember the library downstairs? They stuck in HS10. They stuck me down in the library. So I was like checking out all the books and the videos for the pilots and stuff. And eventually, there was a chief there, Chief King. I don't know if you guys remember him. I think he was at HS4 for a while. He's like, well, we need to do something with this guy. It's like either we need to send him to SAR school or we need to get him to the fleet or something. So initially, there was a couple HS10 instructors. Mustine, I think, was one of them, and I can't remember the other guys, but they literally took me over to the pool and like just threw me in the pool. And they're like, well, you're going to learn how to be a SAR swimmer. Well, I sucked at swimming. Like
you've covered that earlier when you couldn't tread water. You got rolled.
Oh yeah. They're like, oh, you can do it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, like I'm not that great of a swimmer. And I remember because I had like an old football injury from high school where my shoulder every once in a while would dislocate and
nice Lethal Weapon style.
Yeah. And so I'd be doing like the side stroke and stuff, that you guys use, and I like every once in a while my shoulder would sling out, and they figured out that I wasn't going to be a SAR swimmer. So once again, it was like, well, what do we do with this guy? And eventually, they knew that the fleet was hurting for people. They said, well, let's just get this guy like qualified in everything. Let's get him, ASO qualified, TSO qualified, door gunner, night vision, goggle. Like, let's get him all the qualifications we can, and then send him to the fleet as kind of like a first crewman, kind of deal. And so they just started like throwing me in the bird like all the time, and I was going on all these flights. So eventually I get qualified, and then I think it was Chief Rivera went by Rolo. He's like, well, HS8 needs bodies. So you have the choice. You can go now and actually go before they deploy, or I think I had like 6 months left on my orders. He's like, or you can just stay here, but you're going to go to the fleet, and who knows where the ship's at, which squadron you go to then. So I said, no, I'll go. So and I'm going over to 8 as a E3 first crewman.
Wow, that's nuts. Cool. Well, let's pause there so we can kind of catch up in our threesome here. So thanks for sharing that. It's an interesting path because it's very foreign probably to the rest, like the SAR swimmers. But it's interesting because like I had a dry crewman. He was a chief though. He was like the air crew chief of my first deployment.
But I was very lucky because the air crew shop we had, I mean, they just accepted me with open arms, and
Yeah, you had a good shop. I know a lot of those guys. Bubba, let's rewind back. So reading the book brought up some memories of like dive motivator in boot camp. Let's start there, and then let's go through up to air crew, up to SAR swimmer school.
Okay.
What's your memories?
So I went to boot camp like you did in Orlando. So Disney World as well, or Disneyland, whichever it is. I think my company was I-064. So I was an integrated company. I don't know if you were or not.
Oh, no. I was a C035.
Yeah.
So it's probably the same time.
Yeah. And like I said, February 21st, 93 is when I went in. It was integrated. It was interesting. I think we were one of the, first ones or not.
I know it was new back then. Yeah.
We had a lot of dudes getting rolled back. We had dudes
for what reason?
They were crawling through the vents to the women's shower or locker room.
Oh my gosh.
Just being dudes, I guess. So yeah, we had a lot of rollbacks in mine. I didn't get involved in that at all, didn't know whatsoever. I just kept my nose in the grind. And that's the problem with the doing that extra training that we did in the mornings. I mean, we were so busy, and then I just remember being tired, and but it was, looking back now, man, that was some pretty good training. Really got you ready, got you an insight of what you were looking forward to. They actually told me in boot camp that I failed the swim quals and wasn't going to be doing this anymore. They told us all of us thought we weren't doing it anymore. And then the next thing we're going to the trainings and stuff. They were just jacking with our minds.
Oh yeah,
We're doing.
Get you ready for the mind game.
Yeah, because I didn't do the breaststroke properly. I grew up water skiing and Georgia swimming in the water. Water was my friend. So,
Hmm.
uh, then after that, it was off to aircrew school in Pensacola and rescue swimmer school. Um, and then we went off to Millington, Tennessee for A school.
Yeah,
And
well, let's talk about aircrew because you and I may have been in the same class. I'm gonna look for a picture later and see. Either way, we were like at the same time.
sure.
Yeah, what was your memory of aircrew?
Aircrew was just a great time. I mean, it was fun.
It
And I
was so
think if I
fun.
had to pick, some of the training that was the most fun, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed rescue swimmer school, but it, it was like rescue swimmer school without the stress,
Yeah, totally.
loves, it was just, I don't know, got to shoot pencil flares and stuff. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah. You have to do the
Yes.
dunker or get dragged
Yeah.
by a parachute. Yeah, it was like it was Disneyland. I think I even call that hit that in the book because it's super fun. Like I would do that for my full 6 years that I was in if I could.
Yeah.
I'll just be
I
a
think
trainee.
I think to be an instructor at aircrew school would be like the ultimate orders, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. So then you made it through that
mhm.
and went to SAR school. Did you get right into our class or were you there like a week prior? And
No, I just rolled right into it.
hmm.
Yeah. Uh, and yeah, I think it was what night was it 9318 what it was for us. Uh, and I thought I enjoyed it too. I mean, to be honest with you, it was I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the training. Um, the physical aspect, I mean, I'm very competitive and just wanted to just always a challenge me to beat whoever was there. I
Hmm.
didn't, but I always wanted to, right?
Yeah.
I think the hardest part, most physical, challenging part for me was I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this, we called them Indian sprints in the sand. Did you do those? Or we'd have to
Well, I was with you,
start,
so yeah, it is. I think they call it Native American sprints. I don't know
right?
what they call it, but yeah, back then. It was-
Where you start from the back and you start going, oh, all the way to the front. And there was, I think that was the most challenging part for me for rescue swim school because I hated running in sand. But
yeah. Well, that's the one obstacle that they don't mention. You can go through the O course and everything else, but that sand, like one, it gets all over you if you sugar
mhm,
cookie up, like you're the rest of your day, you're hurting, but it's that resistance training. That
mhm.
is tough, but man, how fit were we?
Well, I was in really good shape. Yeah, it was awesome. And the swimming was just, I mean, it's just fun. I enjoy being in the water, and
Mhm.
I enjoy hanging out with everybody. Actually, sometimes I had too much fun. I got yelled at well, one time pretty severely because being a stupid kid, 19 years old, I don't remember who it was, and I hope it wasn't you, Brian. So
Let's go.
we were walking out of the locker room, getting ready to come in for training, right? And as we're walking out, I pants the guy in front of me. I don't know why I did it. I just went, and he walked out.
It wasn't me.
I don't
Uh,
remember who it was. Hopefully,
Probably
here's
like
the
Scotty B
podcast.
or someone.
I don't. It might have been Scotty. What a crack up Scotty was. And then I thought they were going to kick me out. They came. They brought me in there and they just reamed me. And yeah, I was scared to death that I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be able to get through the training after that.
Oh,
Looking
that
back,
sucks. And as instructors, they're trying not to laugh because that's just good stuff right there.
yeah, but yeah, I suffered for a while after that with the training and stuff, and I
Yeah.
got made fun of and called names and stuff. So, it was good looking back. I had it come, and I should. I was just a stupid kid.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's just growing up. But you think about it, you are how old were you when you went through?
oh, I was 19.
Yeah, so 19, I mean, that's the majority, right?
Yeah.
You're a dumb kid. Look at what other 19-year-olds are doing out in the real world.
Mhm.
Like you're out there and what a tough job from an instructor standpoint. You're
Yeah.
trying to harness this, the male brain's not fully developed until you're 25. Like so you're trying to like really get this person to, do everything from a safety perspective, saving lives, not giving up. And we're just kids. Just trying to figure it out. Probably scared to death for, the first time in our life. We're in this, system of just outside of our control, but we actually have purpose. So there's just a lot of drive there. So I know you made it through the school. I got, my grandpa shot himself. I rolled back, made it through the next one. Um, what I can't remember how much attrition we had. We had both the classes I was in were really good. Larson was the leader and everything, but just from I don't know, just from a mentality point of view, what do you think was different about you? What got you through where others were quitting?
It was the people that were with me. I had a good group of guys. We all hung out together. We were always tight, and I didn't want to be left behind. I didn't want to leave them. I wanted to make sure that, we stayed together, which we did through the pipeline,
Mhm.
with you mentioned Keith and Scotty Bess and Mike Larson, Brent Perkins.
Yeah, I had pretty much everyone else went to two with me,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
all still close, good friends. Yeah, that can be actually tough because say a lot of them did peel off, they didn't make it, and if you're attached to them, sometimes that can be, you weren't in that situation, but I've talked to people where that is tough. Now you got to stand on your own, and so yeah, there's a lot of mentality that goes into it. But you're right, we had some kick-ass people.
And then there's always the fact you don't want to, go back home and, you tell your friends or your parents that, you didn't make it. There's always that in the background as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Dan, like through air crew and like all the unknowns of what you were doing, you got through air crew, you're at 10, and you're just trying to figure it out. Was there like a driving factor for you that stood out?
Mm.
Do you want to go back to Iowa?
No, I mean, well, the driving factor for me was that I don't want to go to the fleet and not fly. I mean, because like I said, I showed up and they're like, "What is this guy doing in our squadron? Like, we have we have no purpose." I mean, initially they're like, "We have no purpose for this guy," and I remembered it was to the point where when I showed up, they stuck me down in the library first, but then like within like a month, they stuck me over at was it first lieutenant, where I was like scrubbing toilets and cleaning stuff. I mean, literally, it was like that. Like they're like, we have no use for this guy.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, you know, by the grace of God, I had a chief that like this is a resource. This is an asset. Why don't we get this guy trained up on everything we can and make him an asset? And if it wasn't for him, literally, I mean, they would have just shipped me off somewhere. So my driving factor was like I had someone that basically believed in me. So
Mhm.
I worked my ass off to get all the qualifications I could and to be a decent crewman. And like I said earlier, showing up to HS10, man, it was I thought, or I'm sorry, showing up to HSA, I thought that because I wasn't a rescue swimmer, I thought that I was gonna be like the outcast. It wasn't like that at all. Like it was
Yeah,
like on day one, like I was part of the crew.
it's nice. Were you spending time like with Rudy in the simulator? And
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's amazing. That's so cool. So then you eventually within the next couple years, you guys made it to HS8.
Hmm.
Dan was a few years prior. And then you guys were you on a debt when the 14 incident occurred, or were you guys on shore, just out
No,
training?
we were on shore.
Yeah.
We were getting we were in the workup phases. We were getting ready for deployment, but we were on shore. And
Mhm.
I want to say we were doing like all of our quals, like we were doing our door gun qual, our M16 quals, we were still carrying the 1911s back then, so we were doing all like that type of stuff to get
Mhm.
ready for deployment.
Okay. Well, let's roll into that. So what actually happened? Was it two F-14s? Is that a Miramar, correct? They were Top Gun in it.
Yeah, I'll let Jay tell the story.
Jay, you're up.
Yeah,
Bubba.
they
No one
were.
knows Jay. It's Bubba.
Yeah. Yeah, there were there were two F-14s. They both had two of the Phoenix missiles loaded up, and From the story I heard, they were taking pictures, and they just,
Like inverted?
yeah, just like Top Gun, man.
Nice.
And they just bumped into each other. And there's one went one way and then one went the other.
Mm.
We were actually in a briefing. Dan and I were getting ready to go out and fly. And then this came over. And then from what I remember, Dan, we just kind of grabbed the gear and took off, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I still
What's
I
that?
can still remember the the ready room that we were in. It was dark, but the windows were up top, like the sun was shining through, and we had just got done looking at the books for the bird, and we're like halfway through our briefing, and I think it was Mikey and someone else came blasting through the door and said that two aircraft just crashed. So we're all kind of like looking at each other like, nah, no, no, no.
Yeah, right. It's so many falses, but man, that must have been once it was no longer nah. You guys must have been pretty jazzed. Like Bubba, how long were you in the squadron at this time? You must be
I
knowing.
just got there. I graduated HS10 in August. I mean, I'm barely knowing how to, go out
So
on my own.
your wings, the holes in your wings, by the way, that I punched in your chest because I graduated like a week before you, hadn't even healed yet. And
No, I mean, I thought, coming out as a new guy, I'm like, this is great, man. We're just getting rescues all the time around here.
right, that's it for your whole career. But yeah, so you're running out there. You got your gear. Did you dress out in the aircraft?
That's I don't remember. I don't be honest with you. Dan. I don't even remember doing a pre-flight. I think we just jumped and went.
No, no, we literally like ran out there and just like tossed all of our stuff in, and we were airborne in just a few minutes. It was almost like an alert five. It was fast.
I think I dressed out in the helo as we're going out. So as we're going out, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what am I put all this stuff on? Okay, do I wear top, bottom coat? What's cold water?
Hmm.
What to wear for this instance. And I'm not at this point. You got the helmet off. You're just throwing stuff on. So I had
Yeah.
really no idea what's going on and where we're at. And I finally get dressed, and at that point, I think we're pretty much there, right, Dan? And it's like, go get in the water. Here we go.
Yeah, it was. So I didn't have the radios on. I just had ICS on, and I don't remember if it was Coons or was it Hamlin? Was that the other pilot?
I can look at the newspaper I have right here.
I don't remember which
Yeah,
one,
thanks
but
for sending that.
they literally said, "Oh, there he is," and like we were all of a sudden we were just. I remember we were on approach. It was like that fast. We weren't flying around for very long at all.
No.
Okay, so it was just right off the coast there,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or they probably
It was
took
in
you after.
what they call it was in the dipping zone wherever we used
Mhm.
to do all of our training. It was like
Yeah.
right out there.
So you saw one pilot, and was it Milligan in the other aircraft? Did he pick up the other, or did you guys
Yeah.
get them both?
No, Sean got the other one. And then
Okay.
there was actually a Coast Guard helicopter who picked up one. And then there was a Marine and a CH-53 Stallion
Oh my
who
gosh,
picked up one. Yeah, right.
there's some
I
Oh
rotor
remember
yeah,
wars.
kind of, I remember kind of watching that go down. We're all just, it's like little kid soccer at this point. Everybody just wants the ball, and we're like, just get out of the way. And they paid out enough cable, and I think he got blown out of the raft and got back out, and then they got him up. But
Yeah, oh, that's crazy. Okay, well, let's take us through yours. Was it a 10 and 10?
no, I wanted a 10 and 10, but like I
Come
said,
on,
I'm not
Dan.
CS. I just got told that you're being lowered down. So
Okay. So how was that? You're on. Did you guys throw a smoke out, or did you even need it? You already have it. You knew the wind line. I know this is going back like a lot, over 30 years, but
he didn't have smoke, but I remember it was the day was so clear and the water was so like that iridescent blue. I can
mhm.
remember we were on approach and I wasn't even looking out the door yet, and I could already see his green trail
Sea
from
dye
the
marker.
dye pack.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you guys come in, 70-foot hover, Bubba's on the wire. His eyes are super wide, probably a big grin. And then you're heading down and you hit the water. Dan backs it off. And what are you thinking, Bubba?
Well, I think we kind of need to back up a little bit.
Okay, back up. You're in control.
So I think, Dan, I'm going to need you to fill in this part about the it wasn't our choice. It wasn't mine or Dan's choice. We didn't have a choice whether it be 10 to 10 or being lower down. Okay. The guy was in his raft. He was doing well. So, like I said, I don't know if you heard this before. It wasn't mine or Dan's choice to do the deployment that way, but that's how it ended up. I mean, the guy was, he was good in his raft, and so there was no reason for a 10 and 10.
There's always a reason for a 10 and 10.
I know. I just wanted that traditional SAR 10 and 10, man. Just, or even a 15 and 0. 15 and 0s always turn out to be like 30 and 0 by the time you get to. So, all right, Dan, I got to give it to you right here and let you take over from the approach and the deployment. Okay.
So, like Bubba said, we didn't have the decision on how we wanted to deploy. So I knew I was lowering him down. Like you said, Dickie, I mean, his eyes were huge. Like he's like, this is the best moment ever. And I remember seeing the raft, but then like my focus was on Bubba, and I, did one last, check of him, push him out the door, lower him down. He gets in the water, and then as soon as he touches the water, I'm thinking, we are an ungodly long distance away from this raft. and like we must, I probably put him easily like 40 to 50 yards away from this guy. And I'm like, well, that was stupid. And
he's a strong swimmer.
Yeah. Well, and that was, so my initial thought was, man, that was horrible. And then my next thought was, he's new. He's young. He can do it.
That's funny. Okay, so you didn't you didn't short haul him over. You're like, get off my hoist and figure this thing out.
Oh yeah. So he was, so he got in the water and he was a long ways away. And I remember looking down at him and I'm like, oh man, he's really so far away. I wonder if he's even going to see him. And I remember Bubba kind of did this spin for a second, like where is this guy? And then he locked eyes with him, and then he was
yeah. Well, it's hard to see in the rotor wash too. So that's good. So locked on. Take it over.
Yeah. So when I got down, like I said, I'm because you're going down the cable, you're always trying to stay on him. But I hit the water and give the thumbs up, and I'm good to go. And then like, so where is he now? And I'm looking around. So I knew the direction, and then I just kind of, beeline that direction. And then, as I'm swimming to him, and I finally see him, and then as I'm approaching that, he's in his raft, and I'm doing the typical swimmer thing, and I'm looking underwater, looking to see what's under there as I'm approaching. I just remember seeing a parachute and parachute cords everywhere. And what got me was that sea anchor. As I'm swimming, I see that sea anchor in the distance. I'm like, what is that? But then I realized, okay, it's just a sea anchor. I'm good, right? I go up. I did.
Were you thinking it was like wildlife?
I thought I was like, I don't know what it was, because it was kind of like up behind him on the pass. It seemed like something was coming towards me. Yeah, so I didn't know if it was a shark or what it was, but it caught my eye, and I come up and I do the typical, sir, I'm an United States Navy rescue swimmer. I'm here to help.
It's so cheesy.
Yeah, no, right? But it's beat into you, right?
Yes. Yep.
And and he's in his raft, and I remember being taught in swimmer school, hey, if they're in the raft and they're okay, and you can start doing the detangling process while they're in there. And so that's what I did, because these things were everywhere, and I'm trying to do it without using my knife or the shroud cutter to get this stuff off. And finally, I just screw this, and I pulled out the knife and I just started whacking stuff away, just cutting as much as I could, so that I didn't have to deal with it once we're in the water. Because I was just amazed that it was still like hanging down there and all around them. And then I finally get to as much as I can, and I even said, I said, all right, sir, are you ready to get out of the raft? And he goes, okay. And he just kind of flopped out of the raft. And so,
Nice.
which kind of caught me off guard. And he flopped out of the raft. And then, I
Yeah, they never did that in training.
no, no. And I started doing he still had stuff everywhere. And I was like, man, am I ever going to get this stuff off? And so I, just cutting away. And then finally I get everything undone. And then we start, pedaling backwards and everything's good. And I give, Dan the I'm ready to go signal. And, they come over. And I just remember that rotor wash hitting. It wasn't any different than being in the bay when we did rescue swimmer jump. So it didn't really bother me at all. Just, the only difference was, I had an actual, pilot that I'm in control of.
Mhm.
And he seemed to be fine. He really did. Got the rescue strap, hooked him up, got the line taut, and, gave Dan the up helo signal. And then basically that was it. We
Yep.
went up and got up
You
into
went
the
up with them?
cabin. Yep, I went up with him. And Dan pulled us both in, and typical thing, he goes in, and you fall right down on top of him, unhook, and I'm thinking, okay, let's go get the next one. Where's he at? Because I knew there were
Yeah.
more of them. So
Nice. No, that's awesome. I mean, that's how it should be, right? In a ideal world, and especially you're so fresh out of school, man, you were probably just by the book, just doing everything.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was it. It gets beginning to you and ingrained in you, So, and there's a reason for you look back at that. Okay, now you learn why it's beat and ingrained into you.
Mhm.
But when it
Yeah.
comes to
Yeah, that stuff seems pretty ridiculous sometimes when it's like, are you serious? People get rolled for like the smallest thing, and it's like, well, once you get out into the real world, and even beyond the real world, we can talk about that as well. I know both of you are law enforcement. You just recently retired, but it just touches so many aspects. But we'll get into that in a minute. So Dan, so you lower them in. Bubba's on top of this guy, and he rolls off. And what are you doing? Are you doing some assessment?
The first thing I did was like, okay, we just ran out of a lot of room back here because he had all his flotation up
Mhm.
and he's kind of like he's trying to figure out like a place to sit because I want to say that I was already getting like the litter ready for this.
Mhm.
So like we ran out of room in the back quick.
Was this a Foxtrot
I,
with sonar?
I don't remember, but I believe it was because there was just like no room.
Yeah, probably.
Um,
Yeah, now the SOP is, any ejection gets a litter. Back then it was at the swimmer's discretion. Like you said, he's sitting there eating charms and firing off flares. So
Yeah, so I just remember we ran out of room really fast. I remember the look on his face was I think once he got in the helo, I think that's when it started to like really hit him like, oh my God, I literally just crashed a multi-million dollar aircraft with
mhm.
very expensive missiles and I'm probably gonna lose my wings. It was like that look.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that shock, you're just going through the different phases. So that's crazy though. So for both of you, you think about the era that we were in, Top Gun, Goose, Rescue Swimmer. I mean, you're living it. Like how many people get that in that time frame? Were you guys thinking about that during this time? You're like, I just reenacted the most coolest Top Gun scene in history.
I was just jazzed, man. I'm sorry. I mean, I was heading out there, just nothing but excitement and adrenaline running, just ready to do this and get back. I mean, I'm on cloud nine after we get him in. We're all good, you
Yeah.
know. It, it was a great rescue. So
And I hear it was pretty shark infested in that area. Did you know that going into it, or was that just after the fact?
well, Dan doesn't remember this, but I remember coming up and he said, "Did you see the sharks?" And I'm like, "What? What sharks?" So I don't know if you remember that. I don't think you do, Dan, but I remember you asked me because first thing I'm thinking like, okay, what sharks? But uh, uh,
Good thing, right?
I
When
didn't
you're
see
in.
I didn't see anything but that scary sea anchor. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's wild, and that's the thing. Even if you think about them, it's not going to change anything. So,
Yeah.
not knowing is a lot better sometimes. So you got the pilot up. You're trying to secure him in a very crowded cabin. You're also there's three others in the water, and a lot of times in that chaos, you may not even be aware because they're spread out, right? Because they punch out their chutes are putting them in different areas. Um, like how aware were the pilots? I guess were they coordinating with? Because you had three different branches, two of your own birds, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. Like this is vultures, day of feeding, man. All these swimmers are stoked. They're picking up these pilots. It's the worst day ever for the F-14 pilots, but it's the best day ever for all the SAR swimmers and air crew. So do you remember like the coordination wise, like Bubba, you mentioned you got up and you're like, okay, what's next?
Well, like I said, I don't think I ever plugged in on ICS, so I
Uh-huh.
don't know what they're going to think. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, are we going to do another one? But it's almost like I can remember watching the 53, and just thinking to myself, just move out of the way. That's just me totally being selfish because I wanted in. All right. Uh, uh, but I believe they were coordinating. I think was it Mike Larson's maybe ex-wife that was part of the air traffic control. Do you remember that, Dan?
Yeah, I
She's
remember
the
him
one
telling
that
us that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's the one that alerted him, say, hey, do you have any birds in the air? Or, and that's how this whole thing started.
Uh,
With Mikey having the insight on the ATC. And I think the 53s, I don't even think they were local. I think they were just down from up north or something.
Yeah, they
mhm.
were down from Camp Penn. And I
Yeah.
think that's why that was the odd thing about this day, because I mean, all of us, we all spent time there, in Coronado and on the base and stuff. But even like when we go back to visit, I mean, when I go back with my wife to San Diego, that's kind of like our relaxed time. We go back for a lot of memories and stuff. But
Mhm.
even when I go back, you still see helos going in and out, in and out,
Mhm.
and the oddness of that day was that I recall that like there was no birds airborne anywhere
Mhm.
other than Coast Guard. That was it. There was nobody. And the 53 was actually out doing stuff from Camp Penn. They
Yeah.
weren't even. I want to say they weren't even out doing stuff over the water initially.
Yeah. Wonder why. It was a Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
Right. And I think the Coasties aircraft, because they usually have the alert helo, going, I
Mm.
think it might have been down and they had to get another bird ready or something to go. There was something going on with the Coastie helo where they couldn't get out right away. And so they were the last ones to get out there and pick up the fourth guy.
remember looking out at one point, and at that point, once like all the rescues started, it was like it was crowded. Like there was aircraft. To me, it seemed like there's aircraft everywhere. And like Bubba was saying, we all look at this 53 and we're like, what are you doing? Because all of us were told the wise tale, like an H-53 can't do an overwater rescue. You're gonna drown the pilot, you're gonna push him under, rotor wash, all that. So we're like, what is this guy doing out there?
Yeah. 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 That'd be interesting to see. Yeah. I haven't seen a 53 rescue. I've been underneath the rotor wash and yeah, you can imagine the pilot going, can someone else come and get me? And I'd
Yeah.
imagine, Dan, like you're saying, there's aircraft everywhere. You had four that picked up the pilots. I would imagine others had scrambled out there as well. So there was
Yeah, at
probably
that
more.
point, like Bubba said, he wasn't on ICS during a lot of this, but I remember the pilots just going back and forth on radios and ICS, and because initially we thought we were going to go get a second one, and I remember telling Bubba, I'm like, get ready for the next one, and because he stayed in his gear, and we were kind of like moving stuff, trying to make room for a second guy. We were already assuming that we were going to go get another guy,
Yeah.
but it was very chaotic with the radio traffic and the ICS, and then eventually. I don't remember which pilot, but one of our guys just said, "All right, we're done." The other guys were picked up, and then we went to Balboa.
Okay, yeah, you dropped off from Balboa. Did you tell Bubba get ready for the next one before or after you told him about the sharks?
It was after, but I don't think there was
Nice.
any real
That's a good
mood
crewman.
change. I think he was just like, I got enough adrenaline. I'm good to go.
Yeah, I get greedy at that point. No, the fact that everyone got out. Did all four pilots survive?
Yeah.
That's good. That's all that matters. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Good job, guys. Super cool. And then you guys were, um, you were famous after that. You were in the newspaper and everything.
Yeah, I got the Compass newspaper right here. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, you sent that over. That's awesome. I read that. Look at, yeah. And that's how I remember you too, that picture.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a little guy.
That's and then I remember Dan, you because you were talking, you reminded me of something earlier. You always talked about the Georgia boy and stuff like that. And Dan and I were talking before. He goes, "You're always so polite." He's like, he said that because I asked him, "Why did you put me so far away?" And he did it in just this nice way where you weren't mad, just asking a question.
All right. So then you guys deployed after that. Anything interesting happened during your first deployment? All right, maybe Dan, you may have already had a deployment.
No, this is my Bubba and I. This was our first deployment.
First
We
Westpac.
did, yeah, we did the Carl Vincent for. So we were doing debts for the Carl Vincent when this rescue happened, and then we went out on the Carl Vincent, and then the next one we went on the Nimitz after that. The Carl Vincent one was the one that was the one that was on the Discovery Channel that where Comet flew by and blew out his engine and Benny and went out and got that guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was pretty common, huh? Hit the sound barrier and it locks up and follow that bird.
Yeah,
And
that was
then
the end of those.
and
Yep.
the Nimitz deployment is when me and Benny got the F-14 that crashed in the Gulf. They were up doing a check flight and
Hmm.
had a dual engine failure.
No. Yeah. Yeah, so you had some action.
Yeah, I was lucky. I still get crap from it from the guys.
Yeah, so it's interesting having a dry crewman, because the majority it's kind of like flip a coin, like who wants to wear a wetsuit in the Persian Gulf when it's, 150 degrees. And sometimes I don't know what's better because then you can just not even wear a flight suit and just sit there in your underwear. But, for the most part, I don't know. I would go first crewman like a lot of the times. It's like a lot less comfortable. But in those cases, yeah, it's like, oh, I guess I'm dressing out.
No, I would always choose a swimmer unless I got outranked.
Yeah,
Go
good.
ahead.
Yeah, you're in charge.
I don't remember what deployment it was, but I remember because I did two on the Nimitz and then one on the Stem all while at HS8, uh, and the cod had blew off a bag of mail, so I got sent out to pick up a bag of mail for the for
Heck
the
yeah.
for the aircraft carrier, and they said launch them. And so we're gone, man. So
Yep.
I got to go in the water, grab this mail sack, and as I'm holding on to this mail bag, which is soaked full of water, I'm just coming up like, don't let it go, don't let it go. And it's because I just remember being waterlogged and heavy, but I don't remember who my crewman was on that. I just remember doing it and getting back in, and then can't remember if it was on the Nimitz or the Stennis, but I think I even got like a postal patch from the mailroom.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and that's pretty crazy because yeah, that's a sea anchor in itself. Like for the whole hoisting evolution, I'd imagine that was, it probably seemed heavy while you were in the water, but not beyond like the hoisting capabilities.
No, nothing like that. Nothing. And then, and they put out this, I think I've got a clipping of it somewhere, this article they wrote up, they mentioned the sailors that were happy because they got their packages and stuff. So, I mean, it was actually pretty cool all around.
It is, yeah. Mail is that's life out there, right? It's not like we had internet or anything back then.
So, yeah, and that was before because we had, and there was one deployment, I think maybe my last one on the Stennis where we had actually had email.
Hmm.
But so,
It'd
yeah,
still take like a week to get there.
yes. And when then they had the phones that you could get on down there, and it would just, you could have your little phone card. You're lucky if you got service, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was expensive and you had a delay and yeah. Yep. I think things might be a little bit different now, but I guess we're OG. So from all these different experiences, how have you guys, how did you respond? And maybe even did, as you go through life, you guys both went from one traumatic job to a very traumatic job in the police force. Both of you, right? Like similar jobs or
Well, I got out in December 31st, 2001. So let's just, well, intents and purposes, 2002 by day.
Mhm.
And then it was an easy transition for me. I worked at Home Depot a little bit when I was on terminal leave. And
Mhm.
I thought, man, I can't be in sales or Home Depot. And so I started doing the law enforcement thing. And it was so structured. And it was just like being, going to the police academy. It was just like the stuff that we were used to, having, rank in front of you where who's in charge, and
Mhm.
what your mission is to do and how to accomplish it. And then I'm in a uniform again. It was it was so easy just to go right into for me.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mac?
No, it's exactly what you said. I mean, thinking back, I've been I've been in a uniform since like I graduated high school. Like there was a very, very short period of time, like on terminal leave, like you were, where I was kind of waiting to get hired by the police department. But like I've been on uniform since then. So it was a very easy transition to go into that that organization where there's structure, there's defined leadership, there's a defined mission. And then, like Dickie brought up, experiencing what we experienced, both on just deployment life, the camaraderie, the rescues, um, the first initial trauma that I saw um, on the police department. I was able to just to remain calm and kind of knew what my role was, what my internal checklist, to resolve the issue was. It wasn't it was wouldn't say it was easy, but I could get through it, because
Mhm.
I'd already experienced it.
I don't know about your wife, Dan, but my wife said it was an easy transition. After being gone on deployments, after having the job that we had, and what we had to do, going to work in graveyard shift for the first 4 years was not a thing for her. She goes, I was prepared, I was ready, but there were other spouses that they would talk that were in law enforcement well that she's like, and they were talking to her about, oh, graveyard shift, he's not home, and she's like, she was more prepared, so
Yeah.
more than
Because you're
others
still
were.
coming home in the morning. You're not coming home in
Right.
6 months. Yeah, no, that's thank you for even, going there because it's so easy to just talk about, us and, deploying and the cool things and traumatic things and whatever. But man, yeah, when you have a support system at home, that's huge. Super huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I could have
irony
done
with
it.
that is when I met my wife, prior to my second deployment, 'cause I came from a law enforcement family. Like it was like there was two things that was ingrained in me from childhood, and that was you're going to be in the military and you're going to be a cop. It's like because I had like generations of people before me were all cops, all military. I meet my wife. She brings me to her house to introduce me to her family. Her father was in law enforcement and he was prior military. So it was like literally I was going into a family that had already experienced that. So that's why, like Bubba's saying, I was very, very lucky that my wife, who I'm, been with her ever since, she already knew that culture. She knew the military culture. She knew the law enforcement culture. She knew the expectations. She knew that there'd be times when I wouldn't be home. And most importantly, she knew that there's going to be trauma that comes with the job. And I mean, if I've told many people this, and that if I wouldn't have met her, I don't know if I'd still be here today, because she's brought me out of some very dark places. But she knew kind of how to help me with that trauma, and like how to communicate with me. Whereas like Bubba will say, there's other people in law enforcement that have spouses that just, it's hard for them, and they don't understand what we've been through, and then more importantly how to assist us through those dark times.
Yeah, and it's almost not fair to them either. Like they think they know what they're getting into, or maybe it's a tough. I mean, you can debate that all day long, but it's amazing when you can make it work and you work together. And for those of us that have strong faith, when you're focused on each other, you're always going to disappoint each other. But when you have something beyond, and you both focus on that, then you tend to walk that path and that journey together, and you can grow stronger because of it. All right, we're getting too serious. Let's sidetrack. Let's do this hypothetical scenario. Okay, we're gonna put you back. It's gonna be 1995, so some good music still.
Yes.
And we're gonna do a hypothetical scenario. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna say, Bubba, you're gonna be the rescue swimmer, and Dan, you're gonna be the first crewman. You guys ready for this?
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. I'm just going to pick one. I'm not going to give you an option. Oil rig explosion. Here's the scenario. So the whole thing is, you're going to get some information. It's not going to be completely full, but on your route out, you're going to tell me what you guys are going through from your two different perspectives. Okay. Oil rig explosion. The scenario. An oil rig explodes and is engulfed in flames. Workers jump into the ocean, many injured and surrounded by burning oil and toxic fumes. Now launch the HS-8 Hilo 614. Was that your guys's? Was it 61?
Yeah. It's actually, I don't know if I can say this, but loose foot.
Yeah, let's keep going. Loose foot.
Hey, loose
614.
That was our call sign.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
Dan,
Yeah,
you want to go
go.
first, crew chief?
First crewman has to go because Bubba's dressing out.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, I know the pilots want to be downwind, but that's going to be horrible for us, because we're going to get nothing but smoke, fuel. It's going to be burning our eyes as we're, approaching and stuff. But I'm thinking litter again. I mean, you're probably going to have some people that are going to be definitely burned up pretty bad. I may even go into the SAR bag, that orange, medic bag, and start pulling out stuff to start dressing the burn wounds, and kind of have that staged. And then I'm already preparing to lower him down, strategically into the water.
Getting lowered again, Bubba.
Yeah. It's gonna be a long ways away this time, Bubba.
Okay, so I'm on board with the lowering this time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like Dan said, preferably not 40 yards. Let's get closer. And at this point, I'm just not thinking, man. I'm pumped up. Let's just go. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about how many people I can go and get as quick as I can and get them out. Obviously, we're assessing who's hurt worse, or if they're scattered about. Whoever you send me in to pick up first, I'm going to grab this person, assess them. If I need a litter, I'll call for a litter. But if I don't, I'm going to hook them up if I can, if they're able to, and then send them up, and then go looking for the next one. I mean, to me, it doesn't, okay, maybe swim around the fires, whatever it is. If I see another one, if I don't see anybody else, then I may come up with that guy and say, hey, where's the next one at? I can't see anybody else. And then take it and do it again, just assess the situation as it goes, and to get lowered in and just got to get as many as you can. Fill it up.
Good job, guys. Over 20 years since you've been in, and you can just snap right back to it. And it's all about assessing that situation, reassessing, and yeah, everything within your boundaries, with everything within your control, and then responding to the things outside of your control. So super cool. All right. So both of you have had obviously incredible experiences that the listeners, besides the other swimmers that are listening, they can't understand, they'll never get it. But based on not only just your military, but, outside of the military, all the law enforcement experiences you've had, what type of wisdom would you leave the listeners? Start with Dan.
Well, we already touched on it like first thing on the podcast, and that is that there to this day there's no camaraderie like the guys in my shop. I mean, when we had our got together for Lee's memorial, it was literally like we had just walked off the ship on Liberty Call. There was no beat skipped, and I know, just like Bubba will say, there's not a single person in our shop that if I called and needed something, that they wouldn't be on the first flight out.
Yeah.
They're going to be the ones that answer the phone call at 2:00 in the morning because you need someone to talk to. They're the ones that they're going to be by your side, when you need them the most. I mean, I can call any one of those guys.
Yep.
There's people that I don't remember from my own high school graduating class, but these guys that I spent only 5 years with,
Yeah.
I know more about them than even some of my family.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, totally. They are your family. And just so you know, if you ever need anything, I won't fly. I'll just walk across the street.
You'll run across the street.
Bubba, what's your wisdom?
It's be confident in what you're doing. You have to do something. Be confident in what you're doing. But to be confident, you need to be prepared. And if you, like I said, when you do these, these podcasts and stuff, you're getting prepared for for this. And as you come in, you're confident when you're doing it. And so if you're prepared, trust your training, you're going to be confident in what you're doing. You're going to get the job done.
Yeah, that's great wisdom. So true. It's amazing. The more prepared you are, the more you train, the luckier you get. Yeah. Yeah, the first part of that. No, that's great wisdom. And I'm so grateful to have you guys as friends, as brothers, for you taking the time to just share your wisdom and your experiences. It's amazing. There's people alive because of you. There's people that you've impacted that you'll never know because they're not, you just don't even know this, how far your reach is. And it's not even about that. It's just the humility is strong with these two for sure. So it was awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. And what you're doing, Brian, is awesome and amazing. The people that you're reaching, not only us, but other folks that are reading, your books and just enlighten them to what is out there in the world. So, man, you're doing a great job, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm the same. I really appreciate you bringing me on. Bubba and I, we obviously been through, an event together, but it's awesome that we can sit here and chat, and like all these memories just start resurfacing, and it just, puts a smile on my face knowing who I served with and what I did. And I, like he was saying, I'll just say this. I have my current sergeant, at the beginning of the year, he said, I want to say one thing, and that is be a pro. Be a pro in whatever you choose to do. Find those things that maybe you're insufficient in and be better at. And with this, with our rate and with our job in the military, everything we did, we wanted to be pros. And I take that into my job now, and everything I do, I want to be a pro. And I work very hard to be a pro.
No, that's great. It's great advice. Well, thanks, guys. Proud that this was my first threesome on this show, and pretty amazing. And for everybody else, we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Calm in the Chaos podcast. Please subscribe to be notified of future episodes. And if you enjoyed what you just heard, please leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Until next time, Get out there and make a difference so others may live.